So this is Bob Kilpatrick. I pray that you guys would just be blessed by him, and that after the worship service, he has these incredible CDs and DVDs and this book called Secrets of the Silence, but there's like 5 other books on the table, and
No, just that one.
Just this one? Oh, okay. Well, get out your Kindles and order all the other books.
That's right.
And they're durable too. That's the other great thing about these books. They're really durable.
Hard to break.
Yeah, but every time that I have encountered Bob, he has blessed everybody that I've shared the experience with, and I know that he will bless you today. So will you again thank God for him being here. So
thank you so much. Thank you. Well, thanks for telling them about that stuff, because I really don't want to take any of it home with me. I'd rather leave it at your house, It's sort of Bob to go. It's portable Bob, It's like, I'd like a little bit of Bob, Take me home. I am Bob. I live in Sacramento. I'm a married man. My wife also lives in Sacramento. It's helped our marriage a lot, just to live in the same town, And because we live in the same town, and even I don't know if you guys do this, we live together. Is that okay to say that? Okay. And because, that's a euphemism, right? Live together, it's wink, wink, nod, nod, know what I mean? So because we live together, a year and 9 days after we were married, we had a son. Then son number 2, then son number 3, then son number 4, and then something different. It's a girl. I didn't know we made that kind. All right. I loved it, man. I was so happy when I saw she was different than what had come before. I cried for 2 days. I couldn't even believe that I had a daughter. And of course she's spoiled. All my kids are spoiled. I spoiled them with love and discipline, because love without discipline is no love at all, is it? So I raised them up as well as I could. My wife didn't do any of the work. It was all me. And I'm proud of them. They're good kids. You know what my goal was? I wanted to raise people I'd like to have as friends. And it worked out that way. My oldest son is a writer. That's what he does. My second son is an artist, businessman, entrepreneur, but mainly graphic stuff. And my third son is in business, commercial real estate. And in fact, James pastored my third son, and my daughter-in-law, and my grandkids, their children. And I'm just eternally grateful. Thank you for the influence on their lives. And my youngest son is a worship leader in a church in Oxnard, so he's leading worship this morning as we're gathered. And then my daughter, she's a newlywed, so she's worthless, It's just like, oh, Eric, whatever you want, She'll get over it. Because you did, didn't you? Didn't you? And they're all married and breeding. I think we're part rabbit. Now we have 21 little Kilpatricks on the face of the planet. No, hey, you're not clapping for me. I had nothing to do with it. It's them. They like living together too, evidently. 21. I can't even believe it sometimes. But, I know them all, and I love them all, and I hang out with them, and I really enjoy them. In fact, 3 of them were at my house just before I left to come down here yesterday, and just love them. And we take them. I travel a lot overseas. I do a lot of overseas ministry. I was on 5 continents last year, and I've been just a lot of places. And when my grandkids turn 12, they get to go with me on a trip somewhere. And so the first one went with me to do worship seminars and concerts in Italy. It just exploded. They thought 30 or 40 people might come. We had 700 come to the thing. And then the mayor of Naples invited me to come back and do an event. He gave us the free use of the sports arena. And we set up outside, and he opened the thing up, and we had 10,000 people a night for 7 nights come to hear about Jesus, It was just remarkable. Stuff you just couldn't make it happen, but they were flocking to it. They just wanted to hear about Jesus Christ. And my oldest grandson was in my backup band. And so he's over there with me, just singing and rock. In fact, he's been to China with me twice, playing his violin. I'm not even telling you this other story about one of my proteges who became extremely famous in China, so famous that we did 2 tours there just last year alone. And my grandson played violin on one of those tours, and we just had a great time. And then the second grandchild, a granddaughter, went with me to Ecuador. We did worship concerts down there, you know, and great crowds. And third and fourth went to China. And you know the song we started with this morning? They were going to lead worship before I got up to speak and sing. And so and I'm going to play bass for them. I'm standing in the shadows. And they go, "Are you ready?" "Bless the Lord, oh my." And they start singing, and I started crying. I just started bawling, and I call it messy crying. I don't know what you call it, but it's where your face contorts, you can't control it, and everything leaks, right? I don't know another way to cry. That's what I'm doing. But I'm thinking, how cool is this? My grandsons are leading worship in Shanghai, China. Is this cool or what? I'm just so glad I got to be there for it, you know? And then the fifth and sixth went with us to Indonesia, and just all over that wonderful country, and so many miracles, so many real miracles that God was doing over there. It's just such an incredible place, and you know, a privilege. And I think the next 2 are either going to Malaysia in December with me or down to Argentina in November. We haven't decided yet. Kind of late, but we should make that decision. See, I want to raise these grandchildren to see the world, but also to see God at work in the world. You know, that's kind of the point of it all. Yeah, it's a blessing. I've written books, and I've produced albums for some great artists, and traveled a lot, you know, and been on radio. Did a devotional that a number of the networks carried. K-Love carried it for 28 years, you know. And but you know what? That's all going to be forgotten. Nobody's going to remember any of that stuff. Nobody's going to even care, you know. I was reading the obituaries, and it said Robert Louis Morris dies. This is the guy that wrote Louis, oh baby, say we gotta go now. Yeah. Lift your hands and sing it with me. I love it. I was in one church, and this guy lifted his hands, singing Louis. Well, it's kind of an oxymoron, but okay, you know, we'll go for it. So you know the song, right? Well, the guy that wrote it died. And I'm reading his obituary. And when I read that, I realized what my obituary was going to say. Because you know what? Nobody's going to care where I went around the world. Nobody's really going to care about the albums I produced or the books I wrote. I'm going to be remembered for one thing. 5 notes, 7 words, and a simple prayer that says, in my life, Lord, be glorified, be glorified. I think that's better than Louis, don't you? Do you know the song? Would you sing it with me as a prayer? I'll tell you something about this song. I never meant for you to hear it. It's funny to me. It's really ironic to me that the most famous song I ever wrote, you know, it started out as the song I never wanted anybody to hear. It just seems very ironic to me. But it's like God. Because I wrote it in my mother-in-law's living room in Atwater, California. And I was writing it intentionally as a prayer for my wife and me to sing. She was singing with me at the time before we would come out on stage. So this was a backstage prayer room kind of a song. And she came in the room. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm writing a song for you and me to sing backstage. We're not going to sing this one publicly. This will just be for us to kind of set ourselves apart for what God has for us. And there's a men's part and a women's part to the song, but it really started out as Bob's part and Cindy's part, you know, because we were just going to twine our voices together and sing this little prayer and then go out and make some, you know, real music for real people. My wife said, oh, no, you need to share that song. That's really good. You need to share that. And I said, no. You don't understand. This is just for me and you. And she said, no. You don't understand. That song is a gift from God, and if you don't share it, you're going to have to answer for that. She kind of pulled out the big guns on me, you know. But she was right. And the song has gone all over the world. very quickly. It was really fun to see, but a little scary too, kind of a wild ride. But the song just took off and went everywhere. And I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't in the music business at that time. And I'm still not in the music business. I'm in the music ministry. It's a little bit of a difference. But the song went everywhere. In South America, we sing, En mi vida, gloria te doy, Señor. In Russia, we sing, Жизни нашей будь восхвален Господь. In Australia, we sing, In my life, Lord, be glorified, mate. Would you sing it with me? And let's make it our little prayer to say, in my life, Lord, be glorified. Glory is the spoils of victory that a warrior brings back from the battle. So when we sing in my life, Lord, be glorified, we're singing, Jesus, conquer me, rule me. Conquer me like a warrior, rule me like a king. Are you willing? Let's sing it together. In my life. In my life, Lord, be glorified, be glorified. In my life, Lord, be glorified. Today, let me hear you sing it by yourself. Say, I was producing an album for some friends of mine named Phil Keggy and Randy Stonehill. And they wanted to use a song I'd written, but they kept teasing me about how much like the Beatles it sounds. And it's true that every song I write kind of sounds like the Beatles wrote it and didn't like it and threw it away, and I went dumpster diving outside their house, you know. I'm just picking through the Beatle trash, you know. But if you know Phil and Randy, you know they're kind of like the Lennon and McCartney of Christian music. So it was a real good fit for them. And it's a good fit for us this morning as well. And the message of the song is simple. God doesn't promise that we'll always have pleasant paths or wonderful weather. What he promises is that no matter the path of the weather, we'll always have him. When you're in the valley of despair, it feels as though you always will be there. Let your heart be strong, though the road is long, there's a way to go. For soon enough the path will start to rise, to mountains high and clear and sunny skies. The way will take you high, way will take you low. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes sometimes. Things are going to work out fine. Rain will fall and then sun will shine again. That's the way it goes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when the raging waters rush your way, it feels like it won't last another day. Let your heart be brave. The calming of the waves is nearer than you know. For stormy days will be a distant dream. La la la, la la la, floating in the still and quiet stream. The river will run fast, the river will run slow, 'cause that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes sometimes. Things are going to work out fine. Rain will fall and then sun will shine again. That's the way it goes. Life's a mystery, and we don't always see God's hand. sun will shine again. That's the way it goes sometimes. Things are going to work out fine. Rain will fall and then sun will shine again. That's the way it goes. When I first wrote that song, the message of it was reverse. It said, that's the way it goes sometimes. Things don't always work out fine. The sun will shine and then the rain will fall again because that's the way it goes. I was having a bad day. I really was. I lived in Reading at the time, and I'm driving home, and I don't know what happened, but I was just grouchy, and I'm griping at other drivers and pedestrians and God and the universe, anybody who would listen to me. Yeah. I got home, I sang it for my wife, and she went, cheerful. So I changed it. But life is still hard to understand, don't you think? It's hard. It's confusing to me. Can you explain to me hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, giraffes? It's like life is absurd. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Now, we want it to make sense. We're always trying to make sense out of things. We're always trying to attach meaning to sounds, to sights. We try to form them, sculpt them into something that will make sense to us in our perception. And it works sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time, and it doesn't make sense. And life is confusing. We don't understand. And I think sometimes Christians think that they ought to understand. Well, it doesn't work that way. Here's my question. Do you? Do you understand what God's doing in your life? No, I don't either. Let's back this up with some scripture, okay? Just in case you're wondering if I'm a heretic or not. Let's back it up with the big one, just the one. This is the one we put on coffee mugs and bookmarks, we memorize in Sunday school. It's Proverbs 3:5. What does it say? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean what? Lean not on your own understanding. Don't you think that if you could understand, it would say, lean hard on your own understanding, or try to get more understanding. But you know what he's telling you here? Thank you. He's telling you that your understanding is not going to prop you up every time you want it to. Some things are going to happen you won't have any explanation for. A few years ago, my 20-year-old nephew, Matt, tall, handsome, athletic, good, godly kid, died of leukemia. Doesn't make any sense. Matt's dad, Jeff, my brother-in-law, not just my brother-in-law, my best friend, he came to Jesus when he was 18 years old and moved out from Indiana, living a terrible lifestyle back there, and came out and lived with us. We were living in Reading at the time, and on staff at a church up there, and he came to live with us, get his life together, and he did. He went from a D minus student to becoming Dr. Jeff Shively, neuropsychologist. It was pretty remarkable. It was crazy. But he was just a young kid, and he came out, and he's living with us, and God's doing great things in his life. And he met this young girl at our church, and he wanted to get married, and I was newly ordained into the ministry, and so he asked me to perform the ceremony, and it felt like Spanky and our gang, let's put on a play. It felt like we were just playing dress up, because here I am at Jeff Shelley, and I'm going, will you and do you, and you may kiss the bride, I now pronounce you, and it worked. It worked. It was so, and they started having kids, and we kept having kids, and we raised our kids together because Jeff and I weren't just brothers-in-law, we were best friends. We played racquetball together. We vacationed together. And now here we are. We're Barry and Jeff's son. 17 months later, we were Barry and Jeff. He died of cancer of the esophagus. In less than a year and a half, my sister-in-law, Shelley, lost her son and her husband. Does this make sense to you? Is there data you can slip into a computer and it'll spit out some reasoning? Is there an equation you can do on the board and, that's why Matt and Jeff had to die? Life doesn't work like that, and we know it. But we're always trying to get things to add up, you know. We're trying to, let's bottom line that for me, would you? You know, just, hey, draw a line and make an equation. And life is not always an equation. It's absurd. It doesn't make any sense. We're always trying to make sense, and God is not helping. I have, like Job, demanded that God come down and explain himself to me. And he says, and you are who exactly that you should command me? God doesn't help in our quest to make sense of life. He won't help us. But there's a reason for that. God's an artist. All through the Bible, it paints him as an artist. What's the first thing he ever did? In the beginning, God calculated. No. In the beginning, God dictated. No. In the beginning, God conquered. No. In the beginning, he made something out of nothing. He had an idea and he embodied it. Created. To me, the most poignant image in the Bible of God, the creative God, is that of a potter with clay. Because this is very tactile. This is, you cannot stay clean when you're working with mud, you know? So here he is working, digging his thumbs into the clay. This is not like a canvas, and this is not like writing a song or a book. It's very visceral. And look, he's not making toilets here. He's trying to make something beautiful and good out of our lives. And he's digging his hands in, he's forming his shape. And you know what the temptation is for us? If we knew what he was doing, well, of course, we might push his hands away. Don't touch me there. I like that about myself. That's, of course, a temptation. We'd negotiate with God. You can use that about me. But there's another danger. If we knew what God was doing, we might try to help him. I see where you're going with this. That's a good idea. You know, I'm pretty good at this myself, so I'm going to give you a break, and I'm going to continue your work for you. And you know what God says to us? I don't want your thumbprints in the clay. I want my thumbprints in the clay. I'm going to tell you something about Christianity. It is not a self-help program with Jesus thrown in. This is an anti-self-help program. This is God doing for you what you know you cannot do for yourself. What does God want? What does an artist, what does a songwriter, an author want from the art? He wants full and complete access to the materials of his art. You know what God's asking from you? Surrender. Just give up. But it's not the surrender of laying on the floor and waiting him to pick you up like a marionette. It's surrender like Ginger Rogers. Move with me. Don't move against me. That's what God's calling us to. While we're trying to make sense out of our lives, God is trying to make good out of our lives. He doesn't care a lot about sense, but he cares a lot about good. What did he say at the end of every creation day in Genesis? He looked at what he made and he said, that makes sense. No, he didn't say that because some of it doesn't make sense. Have you ever seen a duck-billed platypus? I saw one on the Taronga Zoo in Sydney, Australia. It's like a badger body and a duck bill, and I went, no, you're just wrong. You're like created by a committee on acid or something. You're just whacked, you know. But you know what? God looked at that, he goes, that's good. I like that about him. He's giving us a clue into his character, you know. What does Romans 8:28 say? All things work together to make sense for those who love God. It doesn't say that. It says all things work together for good. Even when they don't make sense, they can still make good. I'm telling you this for a couple of reasons. One is, this is not a dramatic, exalted story. There are people in this room that probably have more loss. My story's not that unique. But it is a reminder of this. You're not alone. This happens to everybody. We all have loss, pain. And there's another reason why I'm telling you. Because sometimes everybody needs a reminder. When the clouds are low and the day is so dark, sense of foreboding, life seems so bad. You need a reminder that God is good. And maybe that day is this day for you. And if so, then this song is for you. God is good. God is good. All the plans He has for us are good. God is good. Always good. We can trust His love for us, for God is good. God is good. God is good. Yeah, all the plans He has for us are good. God is good, always good, always good. We can trust His love for us, for God is good. He made the mountains, you say, God is good. He made the valleys, you say, God is good. All through the ages, God is good. He never changes, God is good. So remember, God is good. God is good, yeah. All the plans He has for us are good. God is good, always good. We can trust His love for us, for God is good. He makes the sun shine, God is good. And He makes the thunder, God is good. In all the bright times, God is good. And even through the very, very dark times, God. So always remember and never forget that God is good. God is good. All the plans He has for us are good. Yeah. God is good. Always good. We can trust His love for us, for God is good. We can trust His love for us, for God is good. We can trust His love for us, for God is good. So maybe you could tack that up on your fridge, or put it on your desktop, or tattoo it on your forearm, something to remind yourself that God is good. Because there are a lot of voices telling you otherwise these days. Our culture seems to be increasingly antagonistic to the message of Jesus' love. They're saying, God is bad, Jesus is bad, Christianity is bad, Christians are bad, you are bad. Those are lies. You need at least one voice, even if it's yours, reminding you of the truth that God is good. He's not bad. God is for you. He's not against you. God is your friend. He's not your enemy. Isn't that the best news you've ever heard? God is good. One more song? It's a song about death, just to kind of lighten up the mood. Really is. It's the song I wrote after my father died, and I'm not going to tell you the story. It is on the live album out there, and you should go get it. You should go get them all. If you buy one of everything, you save money. Hey, you go. The story is on the live album, and but my dad was an orphan, and you're an orphan all your life, you know, and it affected his relationships, and he was a good man, but he was really transformed when he had this mystical encounter with God on Christmas morning of 1969, and I was 17, and I just went, whatever happened to you, I got to have that, because my dad was just transformed. And so I committed myself to Jesus because of the witness of my father's own changed life, you know. And when he died suddenly, unexpectedly, I just really missed him. I had been slipstreaming behind him for so long, you know, somebody to call. And you know what? The hardest thing for me is I miss his voice. I just want to pick up the phone one time, hear him, "Hey, son." But I'm going to see him again. He's already home. One of these days, I'm going home. One of these days, we'll all be home, I hope. So about a month after my dad died, I was all alone in a little cabin up in Alberta, Canada, and I was speaking at this conference, and I'd go back to my room and just cry, you know, miss my dad so much. And in that cabin, I wrote this song. I wrote it about heaven. I'd been thinking a lot about heaven and just wanting to go there, and you know, not going to do anything to send myself there, just ready, you know, just ready. Started doing rapture practice, you know, get ready to fly. You'd thank me if God kickstarted it because of that. You'd go, yeah. So I wrote this song for my dad. It's about heaven, dedicated to my father. I gave it a Scottish feel because we are the Kilpatrick family of the Calhoun clan of the Scots. Okay. I've been in Scotland recently several times, and I got to tell you, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean 24/7 over there. I mean, when I walk into a chippy, which is what they call a fish and chip shop, I walk into the chippy, and the first thing the guy says, "How do come in you have this one here?" And I go, "Is that one good?" And he goes, "Aye." I'm looking for a peg leg and a parrot. It's like, Jack Sparrow, I know you. But those are my people. And so, you know, the song has that feel. I gave you a part in the chorus of the song, and your part goes like this. Hey, ho, hey, ho. And just in case you have trouble remembering your part, I know it's hard. Sing it with me. We go, hey, ho, hey, ho. This morning, you are an honorary member of the Kilpatrick family, of the Calhoun clan, of the Scots, which means you've got to sing like a Scot. Scots don't sing softly. They don't go, hey, ho. They sing with gusto. You got to sing with gusto this morning. And generally, a Scot is never, ever just singing. But as he's singing, he's hoisting his cup of tea. I don't know what you were thinking. So I want you all to get your teacups out with me. Come on, everybody. Nobody's too spiritual or too cool, too young or too old. And as you wave your teacup back and forth, you'll sing, hey, ho, hey. Awesome, awesome. That's wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to cue you for your part, okay? And here is the cue. It's not when I arch my eyebrows. It's not when I twitch my elbow. It's not when I do anything with the neck of my guitar, okay? Those are not the sign, because I've done all those things and people thought, that's the sign. Hey, and then they're embarrassed. I don't want you to be embarrassed, okay? So it's not this or this or this. It's this. I'm going to point. But when I point, don't be shy. Get your teacup out, or whatever it is your doctrine allows, and sing as loud as you dare, okay? It's your way of adding an amen to what I'm singing in this song. This is for my dad. My father is there, and I am there in my heart. And sometimes I long join the ones who departed. The mighty cloud of witnesses bears silent testimony. When I shall join the ranks of them, I'll worship Jesus only. One of these days we'll all be home, say hey, oh, hey, oh. Over the hills, no more to roam, say hey, oh, hey. Our sorrow and our sadness will turn to joy and gladness. One of these days we'll all be home, say hey, oh, hey, oh. The powers of earth and all that glitters and glimmers will darken our hearts, will weaken our hope, but we must always remember that we will shed this thin mortality, and we will slip beyond the veil. The darkened mirror laid aside, and face to face we'll hail him. One of these days we'll all be home, say hey, oh, hey, oh. Over the hills, no more to roam, say hey, oh, hey. Yes, our sorrow and all our sadness will turn to joy and gladness. One of these days we'll all be home, say hey, oh, hey. Sing it again, say hey, oh. One more time and hold it out loud. Hey, oh, hey, oh. Woo! Ow! Thank you. Oh, how embarrassing that is. Sit down, please. Oh, that's so embarrassing because if it doesn't happen next time, I'm going to be so disappointed. Oh, my goodness. One of these days, we will all be home. You are going home with us, aren't you? You going to be there safe in the embrace when God calls, gathers his family home? Here's another question for you. Are you at peace with God today? If you aren't, why aren't you? I can't think of any reason why you should be at war with him when he wants to be at peace with you. Why not just make your peace? You go, yeah, I need to do that. My life is kind of whacked. I need to do that. How do I do it? Well, you pray. It's been a long time since I prayed, Bob. I don't really know. Let me give you a prayer to pray, okay? This will work for everybody. Just pray this prayer. Yes. Jesus, yes. That'll work. That's enough. That's all. You don't need to get your doctrine right. You don't need to come to the right place while we sing the right song and you pray the right little prayer, right? Look, you don't need to get the place right or the song. Get the person right. We're talking about Jesus. If you'll say yes to him, he will say yes to you. Lay down your arms. Cease the resistance. Surrender. Move with me, he says. After you do that, would you find Pastor James and say, I just said yes. Now what do I do? That's why he's here to walk with you as you walk with God. All right? Thanks so much for letting me minister to you this morning.
I got it. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Now
Thanks so
stay
much.
up here for our benediction after our offering. But before that, I just like to say there's so much goodness. There's so much goodness in this world. And if you ever forget that, I just want you to turn to your neighbor and just do this. Come on, let me try that again. Let me see if it works. I want to see if I can do it too. All right, ready? Yeah. Okay. You do it better. You do it better.
That's
you do it better.
awesome. Nobody's ever done that before. That's cool.
I got it. I think I can. I think I got this. So, God is so good that as you leave today, there will be little shouts to you to say,
Oh,
well,
my water. Sorry.
yeah,
It's only water.
you broke your water. Yeah.
I'll stand.
Wait.
I'll stand.
And we all know the classic joke. Please do it. Please do it in our church.
No, I don't know.
Come over here just for a second. And he can walk on water too. There you go. So. Sorry, so stupid. Okay, so God is so good.
You're doing new stuff.
Yeah, you're
I'm taking notes here.
So such a good day today. But as you leave, there will be these little shouts and spontaneous moments and things that'll happen. Please be aware. Please have your eyes open, because maybe that table for the women's ministry is saying to you, women, come be a part of a fellowship and a relationship. And maybe the table that's saying, come be part of the Extreme Church Makeover is saying, hey, why don't you come put your hands to work and your heart to work and transform this space so that we have more room for people, because we want to welcome more people into God's kingdom. Maybe this table full of the book and the CDs that are there, you can see those as blessings, as way that God has prepared a message for you that you can receive. And it's just beautiful. Now, one of the things that also we have is a grief group. And I love in the grief group, they always talk about their grief. And there's a healing that goes on when you do that. When you have loss in your life, I'll say that when I've experienced loss, I realize that I only grieve deeply when I lose something I really love. And so the depth of my grief is really an expression or an indication of how much I've been loved and how much goodness I've received from God. So God is so good. But those times of grief are just so dark and so hard, yet God has prepared a grief group that is incredible at this church. You know, what Isaiah says, God speaks to the nation of Israel through Isaiah. God says, "O Jacob, who I created." Listen, hear, "O Jacob, who I created." You know, Jacob was this little baby named usurper, the one who would usurp others, try to take away from others. And then he says, "Hear, O Israel, the one I formed, I shaped, I continued to walk alongside." And Israel means one who struggles and wrestles with God. One who's not an enemy of God, but who seeks to be a friend of God. And these are the words given to us. Don't be afraid. For though you walk through the waters, they will not overcome you. Though you walk through the fire, it will not burn you. Trust in the promises of God in your life. You promise to try to do that? And then after, I'd like anyone here who's feel like, you know, some of the conversation here has lifted up some memories of grief that you'd like to even talk about. We'd love to have you just meet in the cafe afterwards, and I'll meet with you there, and we'll just we'll have a little time of prayer, and we'd like to be walking alongside you during that time.